Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with a review of the Power Rangers Mystic Force 5-inch figures. So this is essentially most of the first wave that came out. I believe there was also a Hideak that I do not have an individual of. But you got the Core 5 Rangers, and then you have a really awesome Koragg figure here. Unfortunately, in the line, we never did get a Solaris Knight or White Mystic Ranger figure. The next batch of figure reviews for this retro review season will be the power-up modes, and like that's pretty much all we got. We did get a really odd Genji figure that had a Red Ranger helmet underneath, but anyway. So it's kind of disappointing we didn't get the other two Rangers in there, but yeah, let's go ahead and let's actually lead off with Koragg because I said so. So the Koragg figure honestly is really nice and remains probably one of my favorite 5-inch figures in the line. Or just in general, I think it's really cool, mainly because I love Koragg's suit. He's got a really awesome suit. It just looks really cool. He comes with two things here, obviously, which is sword. It's just like a generic silver plastic Power Rangers weapon. And then you got his shield here, which is actually painted pretty nicely. And it does light up right there, as you can see. And that's something else I'll mention about the other Rangers in a minute. But his shield lights up here. It's a decent size. It's just overall really neat. And if you actually collected when these came out, if you remember, these were actually kind of rare, at least from what I remember, that for a while in the beginning especially, the Koragg figures were kind of hard to find. But it's just a very nice figure. I think the details on him all look pretty solid. I mean, his helmet, I think they do protrude a little bit more, but still, pretty good. And the paint jobs on it's pretty good. The sculpts on like the wolf shoulder pads are really cool. It's just overall a really nicely done figure. It's unfortunate we also never got a Wolf Warrior figure here in the US. I believe in the UK they got one in like a special multi-pack, and you can obviously, you know, pick one of these up and find somebody to customize it for you or customize it yourself, but it's unfortunate we never got, you know, one on our own. I was kind of hoping we would get one in the Legendary Rangers line from Super Mega Force. But articulation-wise, he basically has the same mold. There's like random dust here I never even noticed before. The same mold as the others. You got a nice 360 rotation here, in and out of movement. He's a little bit more hindered than the others because of his shoulder pads and stuff like that. And geez, he really is dusty. I apologize. I didn't even see that there. This is embarrassing. But anyway. And then you do have the single elbow joint here. You got swiveling here, swiveling here. You don't swiveling here. Swiveling here. And then you have like the same leg articulation here as well, but it's a bit hindered by like his armor flaps here, but you have pretty solid range of motion, and if you press it a little bit, you'll get it to be able to move. Single knee joint, you got swiveling, and his head doesn't really move all that well, or even much at all because of the armor, but that's a thing. But still, a very nice figure. Like I said, it still remains one of my more favorite ones because I like Koragg's design, and I just think it's a really cool figure. But anyway, let's go ahead and set him aside now. So we'll just take a look at the articulation for one male and one female mold for these, kind of like we usually do. And honestly, I think these are also a pretty solid mold. You still have the more muscular thing going on here, but I feel like they're starting to tone it down, although Overdrive kind of roided out before we got to Jungle Fury. But I still think these are some of the nicer figures. Articulation-wise, they're pretty well done. Like I said, the same base mold here, except there's not really any hindrance. You can move in and out and around. Single joint here, you got the swiveling here. Pretty solid hinge joint on his leg. Good range of motion. Knee joint, swiveling. And his head can move around 360 creepily. And then you have the cape here, which is one solid piece, which I do kind of wish they would somehow move better. I don't know if I would have wanted them to be cloth, but maybe like a more soft plastic or rubbery material, I'm not sure. But yeah, articulation-wise, I already did articulation. Damn it, Dawson. Accessories-wise, he does come here with his individualized weapon, which they all have their Magistaffs, but this is the sword mode, which is his, and you can tell you got the symbol here at the bottom. And you got like the sword, and then they all actually come with, which I don't have one on me, this is part of the retro reviews when I'm missing stuff, but they weren't in the show, but they all actually come with these shields. They're these large shields that have their individual symbol on the front of it that light up. I guess maybe it's because of Koragg's, which was actually kind of neat, and they sort of made them look like knights, but they weren't in the show, but that was their gimmick because these were like called Mystic Light figures. But detail wise, honestly, these are pretty well done. Like, I think the head sculpt is very nicely done here, very nicely proportioned. proportioned. All the paint on him I think looks good. Like I said, I know it's a more muscly figure, but I think that this is still one of the better ones where I'm not really as bothered by it as some of the others. Especially, even though these are better, it's still an example I draw to with these are still more like over the top muscly in the chest area than the current Action Hero line, despite the fact that so many people seem to complain about the Action Hero line being too roided out compared to back in the day. It seems weird to attack it now when it actually isn't that bad. But yeah, why won't he stand? There we go. Alright, so Vita fell over, so she's volunteering to be the example for the female articulation, which is roughly the same. It's just on the skinnier mold here, so you still have the same arm articulation, essentially, that you got over here with Nick. It's just on a smaller mold. So it's actually really nice. And they do have skirts, but they didn't, like, give them skirts. They've decided to just sort of they almost look like they're wearing like pants, like short shorts. But they decided to sort of mold the skirt in a way around their legs so they could get freedom of articulation, which is kind of nice. It makes it seem a little less show accurate, but it's nice to actually have the girls have a full range of motion, because either you would get ones where they didn't have full range of motion at all, or their skirts would be such a hard plastic that you could hardly move their legs. So it's actually kind of nice to have one on the same level. And yet again, detail-wise, I think they did a pretty solid job. The girls really don't suffer. That's a good word. Suffer from any of those muscly problems, like with I think some of the girls had like over muscly in some of the older figures, or like huge-looking like fake boobs almost. And I think this is definitely a nicely streamlined mold, and I think it's a very good-looking figure. And the girls didn't have individual weapons, so that she just has her regular Magi staff, but she does have the individualized symbol on there. But yeah, the girl mold in particular, I think, is really well done on these, because you don't have any real issues there with the like roided out problems, and it's just very solid. And then you have Green Ranger here, yet again the same exact mold as Red, so I don't need to go over the articulation again, but I still think it looks very nice. I think all of the head sculpts on these, except for maybe a little bit with yellows, I think are pretty, at least close enough for me proportion-wise, that I don't really mind them at all. Sometimes you get some funky proportions. Here's Blue, yet again, very nice figure, because the proportions on it are just really well done. They did a good job on the head sculpt. These are just pretty solid figures. I just appreciate it. I forgot to highlight it, but he has his special axe weapon, and she has her individualized Magi staff. Alright, now we have Yellow, who's he's a total jerk and knocked everyone over. Thanks, Chip. He's the only one, I think, helmet-wise, that I think looks a little funny. I feel like his visor's a little bit squished in. It like comes out a little bit more, and I feel like these are fatter. So I think he's the only one that has a bit of an odd issue with the helmet. But other than that, he's pretty solid. There's really nothing bad about him. He has his special crossbow weapon. So yeah, he's really the only one that has a weird helmet proportion. I think everyone else's are pretty solid, especially considering I've been taking a look at all these figures in these retro review series, and some of them will often have really funny helmet proportions. But overall, I think this is a really nice assortment of figures. Look how crooked they're standing compared to when I started. It's funny. But anyway, I think this is a really nice assortment of figures. Yes, on the guys, you still do have some of the roided out chest piece, but I still think these are some of the better 5-inch figures. I think they look really good. For the most part, their helmets are really nice. They're all very well articulated, and they're just just look good sitting there on display. And also of note, with these, I don't have any loose joint problems. You know, I've had a lot of these 5-inch figures, and I've been reviewing them, and a lot of them, when I got them, didn't have them, but as I'm taking a look at them, either for retro reviews or whatever, you notice that they get loose legs over time, and these are actually one of the few where the whole group still feels the same quality without loose legs as when I got them, which is like almost 10 years ago now. So that's pretty impressive. I don't know if that'll hold up to everybody, but I just thought that was worth noting. So honestly, if you're a Mystic Force or Magi Ranger fan, I can definitely recommend taking a look at these. I honestly still think they're pretty nice figures if you're not too hung up on the roided out chest pieces. But now, fortunately, we are heading towards when they started to streamline things a little bit. Like I said, Overdrive roided out a little bit, but Jungle Fury and RPM really perfected the mold. But I still think these are really nice figures worth checking out for Mystic Force and Magi Ranger fans. But anyway, until next time, make sure to check out the Crazy Podcast at WritersRangersRambles.com. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.